Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our webinar of today. We're starting this first session of a webinar on the BOSS. This morning at 10 o'clock, we start with the CEN BOSS and the preparation and submission of files editing guidance. My name is Els, and I'll be moderating the webinar in the background. And as usual, you're all muted during the presentation, but you can use the Q&A panel to submit your questions should you want to do that. We'll take a look at the questions afterwards and try to reply as many as possible. If your question should remain unreplied during this webinar, we promise you to make a Q&A report available so you can have a look afterwards. The webinar has been recorded, so you will also receive an email today with the link to the recording as well as the presentation. Now, without further ado, let me give the floor to my colleague Amy, who is here and who is here sitting next to me and going to present you the guidelines. So, Amy.
So what we'll go over today, we've got a live demonstration of the BOSS page, some useful reminders and information for you, and then just a note on some future webinars. But the purpose of today's presentation is that live demonstration. So the CEN BOSS drafting page is newly updated and maintained. So we realized that in the past, the previous page that we had was completely useless for you, not useful at all. So we completely overhauled it, we updated it, and when I say maintain it, we plan to update it as everything changes for us. So if we get new tools, if we get new information, if we get new templates, that kind of thing, we will update the page accordingly. So you can rest assured this is the most up-to-date and best resource for you with regards to drafting. It contains all the drafting guidance and resources needed, so everything that we talk to you about in emails, in webinars, that kind of thing can be found on this page. We include links, there's plenty of examples and more. So let's get into it now that you can all hear me. So I'm going to show you how to get there first. So if you open up this, the CEN BOSS, so this is the splash page, as we can see. We go to reference material across the top right here. And then we have guidance documents and we have drafting guidance, this little tab here. And all the way at the bottom, we have this page, preparation and submission of files. And it'll take you to this page here. So it's called preparation and submission of files because it includes absolutely everything that you'll need to know from the very moment that you draft, what you need to prepare, what you need to provide to us. There's some drafting rules, but also we talk about the submission of the files as well, because that's relevant to the drafting procedure. So to start, on the right-hand side, we have a little menu. So right here, you've got links to 2 internal regulations, part 2 and part 3. And if I click on part 3, which is the most important one for drafting, it should open up as a PDF. And from here, you can save a copy of this if you want to. You can do what you want with that. Oh, I can't see my window. We have to go back. It's all going wrong today. Here we go. Okay, so we're back to where we were. And then just underneath this, you have forms and templates. So these are the main templates and the main forms that we talk about. So you'll often hear the CEN editors talk about the CEN simple template. You'll sometimes, for harmonized text, hear us talk about checklists for HENs. And this is what we mean by those. So these are just Word documents. If we click, you'll see it'll download something here for you as well. So the first things first, we work backwards. So we tell you what you need to prepare for us and provide to us for the submission. So this will be a revisable format of the text in Word, non-revisable in PDF, individual figure files if it's applicable, and then we have some information for you if the text is candidate harmonized as well. So if you have a harmonized text, you need to provide us with some additional information. And what's good about this page is where we have special information for you, we actually provide you with the link as well. So for example, the completed checklist, because you have a harmonized text, you click this, what checklist do you mean? This is the checklist that you mean. So everything should be a lot clearer. We also talk about the construction product regulation. A dedicated checklist is there, and it's the exact same thing. It downloads it straight away for you. We also talk about the submission interface. We provide a link here. I won't go into too much detail on this today because my colleagues did a much better job in a dedicated webinar, so you can go and check that out if you want some more information. But again, if we click the submission interface, I actually can't see the top, that should open in a new tab for you and it will take you to where you need to be. So for each clause, we have the revisable word format. We provide you with the Send Simple template. And again, you click and it downloads it very simply. We give you the naming of the text as well. We talk about non-revisable PDF. And we tell you why, because we realized in the past we tell you what you need to provide, but we never really told you why, so it didn't really make much sense for you. So the purpose of the PDF is to highlight any elements of the text which could potentially become corrupted in the Word file, which is something that we do see quite often with regards to figures being strangely laid out. Sometimes they explode and they become huge, sometimes they go absolutely tiny. We also see it with field codes within the text as well. They can sometimes corrupt and we have no idea what was written there before. But if we have the PDF file, we can see the text exactly as you intended it. Should note that both your Word and your PDF files obviously should be completely clean. No comments, no sticky notes in the PDF, no track changes, nothing like that. We also give you the naming, how to name it as well. So this should be much, much clearer for you. So moving on to clause 2, we talk about starting new work versus revising an existing deliverable, because we're aware that some of you are drafting completely from scratch, in which case you'll need to go straight into the simple template. Again, we provide you with the link. We also provide you with IR3 and the previous webinars for Standards Drafters series, which are all still somewhat relevant, but they will be updated this year. If you're revising an existing deliverable, however, there are some different rules as well. So if you are aware that it's not in the current Send Simple template, you need to copy and paste it in, which is called merge formatting. If you have a revision and you know it's in the simple template, you can just simply go ahead and draft that up. That's fine. You don't need to do any extra work. If you don't have access to the previous text, you can always contact CCMC. So the previous version refers to the previous state of the text. So for formal vote, you will use the inquiry text that CCMC edited, and for publication, it will be, for the inquiry, it will be the previous publication, sorry. As I said, if in doubt, you can always contact CCMC for the previous version and we'll send you the edition that we edited. But we do tell you where to access it. So you should find it on projects online once the ballot period has closed. And you'll also find your comments template there as well, including them from the HAS assessment. We've then got a lot more information on figures and graphical elements. So we really go in depth with this because this is quite an important part. So we tell you what you need to provide to us. So an image file, key, title, and text. This is how you lay it out in the text. Any figure title or subtitles, any units if they're applicable, and notes and footnotes. And one thing I like about this page now is that after the internal regulations part 3 link that we give you, we also tell you the clause to go to as well. So you don't need to faff around trying to find anything in IR3, which is quite long. You just know exactly where to go. We then have some general drafting guidance as well, so how to lay things out. So we have figures in the main body of the text shall be numbered clearly, for example. You can't divide them as figure 1.1, figure 1.2. Again, we give you the relevant part in IR3 to go to for more information. You'll sometimes see this figure titles for figures are strongly recommended, where we've bolded the part that we want you to pay attention to, but they are optional figure titles. And something else that's new on the BOSS page is the presence of these examples. Now, these examples are absolutely indispensable. So here we go. We click this, it should open a PDF. And we can see on the page, we needed to go to figure, I have this open. We needed to go to example 1 to show us the correct layout of the figure itself. So we can see, this is perfect. This is how it's supposed to be. It's the correct layout of a figure with a number designation and a title. In example 2, we have a number figure in an annex with a number designation and no title, so we can see how that should look. So this should really make it clear for you how things are supposed to be laid out if you're not sure. We have subfigures, some with a title, some without a title, that kind of thing. So we scroll through, this is examples 1 to 6, and this is just a PDF as well. So we show you now how to hide table borders as well. So it's worth taking a look through these just to familiarize yourself with what these examples are and how you can maybe use them, because they're really, really useful. Oh, never find the right place. Okie dokie. We have numbering and layout, so we talk about subfigures. We tell you how to hide the borders, but again, you can find this in example 4 of the PDF that I just showed you. Figure content rules as well, so language neutral. This is where you go in IR3 to find more information on that. We also include some exceptions to the rules. Sorry, so figure types. Figures can sometimes include textual elements in addition to the image itself. They're language sensitive, they require translation. So what do you do in that regard? We'll tell you what to do. So you shouldn't really have them, but the exception is flowcharts, which you can have, but we recommend that you draft those in a table. We give you some information on keys, again with examples. We tell you about figure notes with examples, explanations with examples. So this should really be so clear for you to draft out your figures and how to lay them out. A little note on editing figure content as well. You can't edit them within Word itself. The figure file itself has to be edited. So that's normally done in Photoshop or Illustrator or whatever software that you use to create your figures. Because these elements will not be accepted by the submission interface. So you can't crop the figure in Word using the cropping tool. You have to crop the image itself. And this is because we don't have the capability to edit image files in-house in CCMC. We don't have those resources or the training. So this is why we ask that you do it. We also state that a TC working group doesn't have the ability to edit figure files, then you can always contact the drawing office of your NSB. We then talk about general technical rules for figures. So this is the actual technical content of the figure file itself, so the image boundaries, that kind of thing. And then right here, we have the image quality check tool. So you have an image quality check on projects online. We show you how to use this as well. So this is a PDF file that you can take a look at in your own time. Exceptions and special cases, I mentioned flowcharts, organization charts, forms, they all need to include textual images or they're rather pointless. So therefore the rules of language neutrality don't apply. But there are ways that you can draft those, I mentioned in tables, and then you hide the borders, and we've told you how to do that. So everything should be nice and clear. We then talk about providing figure or image files. So we tell you what you need to provide with every single image package. So the designated figures, subfigures, symbols and keys, any kind of image needs to have its own figure file, and they need to be included in that figure file package in TIFF format as well. And we also tell you why. This is because figure files are essential for XML, and if we don't have the figure files, we can't provide a good quality XML file, or in some cases, an XML file at all. So it's worth keeping that in mind. We tell you how to name the figures to keep everything nice and clear for both the editors and for you drafting as well. Specific requirements for the figure file, so TIFF, compression, we talk about color encoding, so that is all there for you. Again, the quality check tool tips. And again, if you don't follow these requirements, it will result in a rejection via the submission interface. The submission interface does check this kind of thing, and I do recommend that you check out the webinar that my colleagues presented because it's very informative and it tells you how to avoid rejections as well. We also tell you how to insert and link the figure files into Word. So I won't go into too much detail with this because I'm wary of the time. But it's very good for you to know, and it's good for you to do because then the links are there and we won't get any problems when we come to edit the text. So we give you an example on how to do this. It is another PDF, another downloadable PDF. Image quality check tool as well. So really you shouldn't have any issues with the images after reading this page. A note on auto shapes as well and word shapes. We tell you how to find these in Word if you do happen to have them. If your cat walks across the keyboard and puts something in there and you don't know where it is, we tell you how to find it because that's something we come across quite often. So if there's any problems, please don't worry, we've probably got you on this page. Clause 5 covers other drafting aspects. So this is really every key element of IR3. And these are the key things that the editors meet pretty much with every single text that we have. So we talk about clauses 1, 2, and 3, the obligatory clauses layout, the scope, normative references. We give you the link to the internal regulations part 3, and we give you the specific clause as well, again, so you don't have to hunt through everything to find. Normative references, we talk about what you can actually normatively refer to, but also what's not permitted. So It should be normative references to directives or any national or international regulations is strictly prohibited. And I want to make a note of that because it is something we come across quite often these days. You cannot do this. It's not permitted. We will remove it by during the editing procedure. Again, clause 15 of IR3 has more information on that. Terms and definitions, we tell you how to lay them out. We tell you the content rules, that kind of thing. Tables as well, we tell you how to lay them out. There's some notes in there too, some XML points as well. So colored cells shall be avoided within tables as it's not supported by XML. So it should be really clear for you what to do with these elements. Not only do we highlight the relevant part of the IR3, but we also give you a link again to those webinars for Standards Drafters series. Same thing with formulae. This is new, inclusive language. Here we give you a link to the ISO house style guide because I believe there was no clearer examples within IR3 for this, and this is really, really a perfect example. So we chose to take it from the ISO house style guide. Again, if you click this, it will take you over there where there's plenty of examples on inclusive language. So that's something to be aware of. And then finishing, you shall provide your text to CCMC by the TC via the submission interface. We give you the link to productions emails. If you do have any problems or any comments or any issues, you can always get in touch with us. And you also have the name of the CCMC editor in charge, and that's on Projects Online. So that should all be clear. This is another new part of the BOSS page, which should help as well. Some FAQs, and these are actual FAQs that we do get. So you have your question, I need help with drafting. Can you help me personally? Absolutely. So I won't go through all of these because I think that might be a bit pointless, but you just click, you've got an actual answer with some good resources there. So that is the BOSS page. Do take a look through it as you see fit. So just some useful reminders and information to keep in mind. Do use the simple template and the quick start guide. You have links to both of those on the BOSS page. The quick start guide is something that we will cover in a future webinar, but you can keep a copy of both of these to hand for all of your drafting needs. And I recommend that you do so. And always use the text that CEN prepares. I mentioned that earlier. So if you're drafting the inquiry, use the previous publication if you have it. If you are drafting a formal vote, then use the inquiry text edited by CCMC. That's very important. And as always, if you don't have access to those texts, get in touch and we can always give you what you need. And if you need to contact somebody at any point, there are different people to contact. So if you have any procedural matters, so timeframes or something other than the editorial content of your standard, so the technical content, the dimensions of something, you're not sure if something's permitted within conformity assessment, that kind of thing, you should contact either mail production or your technical PM. Those are the people who can help you better with those kind of things. Anything editorial, so everything to do with the content of your standard, where's your text post editing, you've seen that there's an editor that's allocated and you don't know where it is, then you can contact either your editor or again, your technical PM for the more technical side of the content of your standard. And you can find this information on Projects Online. And then just a note on future webinars, we do have a series planned on standards drafters for 2024, and this will cover the full process of drafting. So from downloading the simple template, how to use the simple template, going through the quick start guide. There's a live edit planned as well, where we go through some of the more common problems that we meet, right the way through to the final publication. And then we have some webinars as well on amendments and some extra stuff as well, I think TS and TR. So please do stick around for those. Keep your eyes peeled for those as they're coming in the coming months. And that is it. So I think we have a few questions in, so we'll take a look at those very quickly and come back to you with some answers shortly.
Yes, thank you, Amy. Maybe some general question here about everything you have been through. Someone wants to know who is supposed to do all the work and checks you've explained us about. Is it the working group convener, the working group secretary, or the TC or subcommittee secretary?
So while drafting, we recommend that you use the simple template. So the work that you will do to put the text into the simple template is usually the working groups. So as you're drafting. So if you're revising a new if you're revising an existing standard that's been published, if you're sure that it's not in the simple template, we just ask that you copy and paste it in. As a rule, I like to say if it's been drafted before 2019, it likely isn't in the template, but if it's after 2019, it is in the template, because that's when we really started to push for this work to be done. The TC secretary should be checking the content of the standard as well to make sure that it's good to be submitted. And obviously the TC secretary is responsible for the submission interface as well. So any problems with that is the responsibility of the TC secretary. If you're not sure who does the work, you want a specific element checking, please do just get in touch with us and we can tell you.
Okay, great. Thank you. There's a comment on the size of documents. Apparently, documents combined and larger than 500 megabytes are not cannot be uploaded on the submission interface. What about that?
That's interesting and quite concerning. I recommend if you're having trouble with file size, do get in touch with Mail Production. Maybe there's something different there that they can do. I'm not so much of an expert on the submission interface. That is my colleague. So if you send an email with your reference and any information that you have, your work item, to production@cenelec.eu, my colleagues can help you over there far better than I can.
Okay, great.
Okay, the next question. Could you maintain the final copy before converting it to XML of a Word document in Word format? It would be very useful for subsequent reviews because the XML conversion wipes off all internal references to figures and headings and one has to rebuild them from scratch. So actually I believe this is talking about the automatic numbering and things like that. So we recommend that you don't use those because they do get corrupted when we process the text. To prepare it for XML. So any of the styling that's used, even if you style yourselves, it will get rid of those automatic parts, in-text citations, field codes, that kind of thing. We ask that you don't use them because they are so easy to corrupt. We could maybe look into keeping a final copy or reinstating them somehow, but largely if you don't use them, it's much better for the processing that we do. It's worth noting as well, we will never ask you to prepare an XML file, ever. We'll always ask you to send us the Word document. Yeah, we can take a look into our processes and see what we can do with that. So the next question, when we want to send the working draft, we don't often have the project in a good format, and we don't want to ask the conveners for it at this stage. What can we do to register it? Because then the draft is not accepted by the submission interface. So if you go ahead and use the simple template in the very beginning, so if you download that, you can just type straight into it. You can copy paste straight into it. It should be accepted by the submission interface at that stage if you are using the simple template. If not, if you are still having problems, just get in touch with production and they can help you figure out why it's not being accepted. But generally speaking, if you use the template, it should be accepted with that. This is one that we get quite often. How should we manage figures when it comes to photos? As the 600 DPI requirement makes any image unnecessarily heavy. The weight of the document shouldn't really matter. I know we have just had a question on the weight of the document being a problem for the submission interface, but it shouldn't cause too much of a problem for submitting the file to us. Again, if you are having problems, do get in touch and we can help you on a case-by-case basis. We do have photos in standards and we do manage just fine with them. So it really shouldn't be too much of an issue. Let's just jump. There we go. Does a guideline exist to be able to understand the error report generated by the image quality check tool? It's not so easy to understand the problems. I agree, and my colleague Sebastian did actually prepare a very good PDF guideline sort of document for the image quality check tool, and you can find that on the BOSS as well. I didn't go into it because of time constraints today, but if you take a look at the image quality check tool tips link on the CEN BOSS, you should find everything clearly. If, again, I keep repeating it, but if you are having problems still, you don't understand something, get in touch and we are more than happy to help you. Is it possible to see an example of Word? If you tune into future webinars, we will be going through all of the resources that we have and showing you how to use them live. So yeah, keep keep your eyes peeled for those in the coming months. Is there guidance on preparing amendments? Yes, that is coming. We're currently drafting up a boss page on drafting amendments as well. We have a simple template in the works too. We're just trying to work on getting those published as well. But there definitely is drafting guidance coming on amendments for sure. Okay, so a follow-up question to the numbering. How should we keep track of numbering if we should not use automatic numbering of figures and tables? There are standards with hundreds of tables which need referencing throughout the document. Obviously, if you have hundreds and hundreds of tables, it's possible that we might not actually get an XML file out of it, which means we might not need to process it at all, which means that those automatic numbering will obviously stay. So if you have a huge number of pages in your standard, if it's 100 pages or more, 150 pages, hundreds of tables, just send us a quick email and just see if you do have an editor's contact detail, just ask them if it's going to be possible to get XML, because it's possible we might not. Obviously, you can use the automatic numbering while you're drafting. Just make sure that you go through and remove them, or be prepared for us to remove them as well. So we're not saying that you can't use them at all. We're saying that when you come to submit it, if you don't remove them, be aware that we will, basically. Okay, so we have a suggestion here. So after submission, the document is edited by a CEN editor. Receiving a systematic feedback from the editor on what could be improved could help improve for next time. So what we usually do, if there are problems with your text, if we do make any significant changes to bring it in line with IR3, we do actually let you know via email. If we don't get in touch with you, you can assume that your standard was perfect, actually. So no news is good news. If you're not sure, if you would like a training, if you would like some kind of feedback, if you just want to know how your drafting was, you can always get in touch with us and ask us. We're more than happy to be present in your drafting meetings and that kind of thing. Okay, another suggestion on the submission interface. So it would be good to be able to use the submission interface to also to check the draft, not only for figures. I will pass this comment on to my colleagues, because maybe there is a way to do this with the submission interface. But if you're not sure if your draft is good and you want us to check it over before you submit it, that is something that we can do as well. And the final question that we'll take today, why do you want figure files to be inserted and linked in the Word file? Inserted should be sufficient. If you could send me your email address, I will get back to you with a proper answer for this. I know there's some reason for XML. I believe if the files are just inserted, they're just saved in the Word document. But if they're linked, it helps with the XML when we create the HTML file, I believe. I'm not too sure of that answer though. So if you can send me your email address, I can get back to you with a more detailed answer. And of course, when we come to cover this in the future webinar, we will be able to give a more definitive answer on that. But thank you very much for your question.
Okay, thank you, Amy, for going through all the questions. I have one last slide here asking you your feedback. So if you would like to take a short moment to answer the feedback poll that we've prepared, it just contains 3 small and short questions that we would like to ask you in order to improve our webinars for the future. And as promised, the webinar has been recorded, so we will provide you with the link to the recording later today, so you can have another look and go through the presentation as well. So thank you very much, Amy. Thank you also, Gonzalo, who was connected and answered some questions in the background while Amy was talking. Thank you, everybody who joined. I suggest we keep open the webinar 2 more minutes for people to enter their comments on the poll, and then we close down. Should you be interested, we have a similar webinar on the CENELEC boss and the guidance principles later today. We start at 11 o'clock, so if you want to join, that's possible still. If not, we hope to meet you during some other webinar. Here is the list, by the way, of our upcoming webinars and events, so you can click through it while you receive the presentation. There is, by the way, general email address for editors. It's production@cenelec.eu. So that's the email address to use when you want to reach out to them or one of them. Then your email will be treated successfully.